Welcome to the Snowbird Investor Way, where we explore what it takes to create your dream cross-border lifestyle, living and investing amongst the sun, sand, and palm trees of Florida, even if you're not a U.S. citizen or permanent resident. I'm your host, Coach Roel. So Paul DeBruzzo, you are a super full-time real estate investor, international investor. You're an Ontario native. We'll get into that a little bit. You're currently now, if you guys are watching the video version of this podcast, you're in basically paradise. I can see by your background. Yeah. And you help other people also invest doing similar stuff that you have. Basically, got the basics there, right?
You got it.
Okay, great. And also, you've got your family man. You're married with 3 kids, and you've got some interesting stories. First of all, about Florida, and let's jump on that. And how does Florida fit into your story? And then we'll kind of take it from there. We might have to go back to your origin story as well. But how does Florida connect with your life at this point?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I guess Florida became let's say a happy place for us during COVID times for reasons you can probably imagine. And for us, it was getting to Florida and experiencing the freedom there was like some medicine for me and my wife and my 3 kids. So we I mean, Florida was sort of it's on the radar, but never like a priority until sort of the COVID times came along, and it kind of forced us to, ask the question like, why is Florida so beneficial? Why is it so hot right now? Why are people going there? Like, what's the real story? Like, you hear stuff and people are talking, but when you're in real estate, it's still a tangible asset, and the land and the culture has to be experienced. You can't just read about it and throw money at it. It's ridiculous. So during COVID times, we traveled, myself, my wife, my three daughters. We traveled to Florida, and just we were city hopping. We did it 5 weeks. We started on the East Coast and sort of started working our way south, major city to kind of major city, getting a feel for what every area has to offer, in terms of social life, beach life, and also just lifestyle for a family, because we got young kids, so that always has to be taken into consideration. As much as I love hanging out in Miami, it might not be the best place to hang out with 3 kids, right? Miami's got its own vibe.
And for context, what time period was this exactly?
This was 2021.
Okay.
And then the following year, we did it again. And we were seeing so many places, and I liked a lot of them, but nothing like, I just felt like I had a bit of FOMO. I'm like, oh, what am I missing by not going more on the west side? Like, is there something else there for me? So we did it again, another 5 weeks, and again, traveling city to city. So now I've been on the East Coast. I've been, from Jacksonville all the way down every pretty much major city. And I've stayed in for, at least 3, 4, 5 days or more, all the way up from Naples on the West Coast, to Venice, Sarasota, Tampa, Clearwater, St. Pete's, even Dunedin. We spent some time there, watched a Blue Jays game in Dunedin when they weren't even playing in Toronto, and Orlando. So we finally sort of found the spots that that resonated with us for us on all levels. And on the west side, that was Sarasota, and just because it kind of gave us a variety. You had the beach life that you kind of wanted. Like, we're beach people, water people, and Sarasota has fantastic beaches on Siesta Key and on some of the other islands. But there's a bit of a economy there. It's not just a small, sleepy town. Like there's a nice downtown. It's got some culture. There's great activities and schools for kids. If we made that move permanently, and there is real estate investment opportunities because we're going to have
Hmm.
to earn some money somehow, right? And on the
But
East
on that,
Coast, yeah, go ahead.
sorry to jump in on that too. What was your motivation originally? So you'd heard about Florida, and you mentioned a little bit of FOMO, but was it that you were hearing a lot about Florida from like in the media from friends, or was it something more internal?
Well,
And then
I
why
mean,
Florida in particular? Because like Alabama and the Gulf Coast, they got beaches, really nice beaches as well. People
yeah,
don't
fair.
really know about. So what was it for you?
Yeah, totally fair question. I'll just be honest with you. Like, we didn't. I have nothing good to say about the whole lockdown thing and what was happening with a lot of the restrictions in Canada, especially in Ontario and GTA, Toronto area where I'm from, and I didn't like that. My wife didn't like that, and my kids were having a hard time, not being in school and stuff, and just Florida was open. It's open for
Hmm.
business and open to live. And yes, there
Yeah.
were some other states also that were also open, but Florida had more of what we wanted in terms of lifestyle. So we thought, and we were correct in assuming that that was the next or the most obvious next place to go. Does that make sense?
Hmm. Yeah. And what was the most surprising thing you learned in those 2 5 week mini retirements, I would say?
Yeah, yeah. The most surprising thing, man, how do I say this? Like, it was almost like I'll say it in an opposite way. Toronto and the GTA. I mean, if you spent any time there, there was just there's a lot of for me, it was a lot of just bad energy floating around,
Really?
and yeah, people were like, just focused on what they do, almost like they had their headphones on and just parading through life. People weren't smiling at each other. There wasn't, it was just general unhappiness. And I found going to Florida, it just shut off. Like it just went the opposite. It was back to normal. It was almost like these lockdown things never happened. Like I'm walking down the street and people were, "Good morning, sir." I'm like, "What? What the hell happened here?" You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you just walk into the grocery store and get your food, and the cashier smiles at you on the way out. And it was just the little things that you didn't realize you missed that were just there. And it just,
Yeah.
you could just live. And I don't know how to put that into words. It's kind of hard, but um, it was
I
important.
know I
And
know exactly I know exactly what you mean in terms of the feeling. Do you think that was because of the rolling lockdowns? Because I had a bit of a perspective. I was already here. We had already relocated, and I'd seen social media posts and comments from friends about complaining about the lockdown and like again. Do you think that
mhm,
was temporary, or do you think that persists today, where uh, Canadians are not as cheerful as the stereotype
yeah,
used to say?
yeah, sadly, I think a lot of it has subsided, but not, it hasn't gone back to what at least I was used to in Canada. Like there's
Yeah.
still and Toronto itself, like I don't even want to go downtown anymore. Like I just don't. Like it's almost like the life, the mojo has been sucked out of it.
Yeah.
And
Really.
it's kind of sad to see because I grew up in Toronto and I was always very, very proud to be from Canada. And, like when we used to travel, like especially with friends, it used to bother me so much. One of my friends, I think he did it on purpose after a while. People, you'd meet people and they'd be like, "Oh, where are you from?" And he'd say Canada. And I'm like, "Bro, why are you saying Canada? Canada is the biggest country on earth. Like, just say
Yeah.
Toronto. People know where Toronto is, for God's sake, right?"
Yeah.
And so I was really proud. And now, oh man, not so much. I meet people and they're like, "Oh, what happened there? What's going on
Yeah.
over there?" And I'm like, "Man, I don't know what to tell you. Like, it's just something's going on.
So
I hope it changes."
So break it down. Just a quick contrast, because I think you and I have a similar history. Like my family came to Toronto in the mid 70s. I was just 1 year old. Pretty much grew up on the mean streets of Scarborough and all that throughout the 70s, 80s. So quick little recap, because some people don't, some people came to Canada, which is the main audience here, as grown-ups already. So they don't know the contrast or the difference of how you and I grew up, what it was like. I don't want to risk sounding like an old fart here, but what was it like that you remember growing up, and what's changed to your kind of dismay?
Yeah, very good question. I was always very proud that Toronto, especially Toronto, had so many subcultures that existed at the same time as everybody was proud and recognized to be Canadian. I'm of Italian descent. I was kind of my parents both came here from Italy, and obviously my grandparents were not born here either. And I grew up speaking Italian in my house, and we had a fairly large Italian culture and subculture and restaurants and this, and we still practice our traditions, but we were still proud to be Canadian. We never sort of assimilated like the same way that like the U.S. melting pot, right? And you had
Yes.
both of those, and I could go, say downtown to St. Clair, and you're on Corso Italia, but next door was the Portuguese neighborhood. And although we made jokes and we had a bit of opposition there, we always respected each other, and there was always a respect, just a general respect for each other's culture, and we enjoyed going into each other's neighborhoods, and it's amazing, and
Mm-hmm.
that's disappeared, and not disappeared totally, but in a sense, a lot of it has. With a lot of the mass immigration we've had, that's been uncontrolled.
Mm-hmm.
Everything's been whitewash in a sense. And I don't mean whitewash from a cultural perspective. I mean whitewash like painting everything white, like everything's more plain Jane.
Mm-hmm.
We've lost a lot of those subcultures. I know you must be. I'm guessing here. You must be from Filipino kind of culture, right?
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, I knew lots of Filipinos growing up, and even Chinese. And everyone had their own subculture, and I thought it was amazing. I thought it was fantastic, and it's been lost, and in a lot of ways. And
And so how is it now? Is it people are, because it's been 6 years since I've lived in
mm,
Scarborough, Mississauga, between those two areas. I've noticed some things like it's pretty crowded, and it was an interesting contrast to see how things in the winters, obviously it's gray and gloomy and brown and slushy and stuff,
mm.
compared to the sunset and palm trees that I'm used to now. What do you think is how is it now compared to what you said how you liked it before?
Yeah, yeah. You could say more crowded. Although where I live in Oakville is, not so much. But in the city, and especially Mississauga there, or by Square One, yeah, I can't imagine how crowded it is to live there on a day-to-day basis. Like I, I just feel like we've lost a bit of our luster and what made us unique, and
Mm-hmm.
that's and going to Florida, I kind of found parts of it again. Like, you could have a discussion with somebody who has opposing views from you
Mm-hmm.
with respect. Like, hey, I do this, you do that.
Isn't
For
that
sh
interesting? Isn't that
Yeah,
interesting? Coming from Canada, and just you hit the nail on the head. It's a really interesting thing is the assumption that Americans are all what you see the caricatures on television. They're loud, they're boisterous, they're rude. It's like I haven't met anyone like that. Even I haven't even seen anybody in line like that. But the neighbors, they're
hmm
actually super nice. And just like you
yeah,
said, they can discuss without having to get all up in arms about different views.
yeah. I mean, hey, I mean, maybe that's might be a little bit different in New York, but even the New Yorkers have their own, a flavor to it. But yeah, people. I think there's the stereotypes where like, oh, Canadians are very kind. And that might be true, but I find Americans more welcoming.
Yeah.
And I almost prefer that. Like I have neighbors, uh, I had this, we don't live on that street anymore, but I had neighbors who were kind. Hi, Paul. Hi. there was just this general kindness or niceties.
Yeah.
But in 5 years, I never saw the inside of their living room.
Mm.
Whereas other
Hmm.
neighbors, like, hey man, want to grab a beer? Like sometimes he doesn't say hi to me. Sometimes he's pissed off and drives by. I don't care. But there's more welcoming nature. There's this wanting to connect, and I find much more prevalent in Florida. And I think as humans, we need that. You have to be able to connect with people around you, or what's the point? We're not machines, right?
Yeah, exactly. So was that the starting point for you to start investing outside of Ontario, around outside of your hometown?
No, I mean we already were, and
Okay.
we were already invested in the Caribbean, and I thought Florida, you know, one of the other I guess sub reasons was, I mean, it's a great jump spot. Like, I got we're looking at buying a property in Italy now.
Mm-hmm.
We since COVID, we've gotten our citizenships, and when I get back home, I'll have an appointment to get my passport. So I mean, I can very easily fly to Italy from Miami, right? I can get to the Caribbean from Miami, no problem. Miami's a major hub. I can go almost anywhere in the world from there. Um,
Interesting. So it's a strategic move as well.
yeah, and here's another thing I learned. I haven't heard this yet from anybody, so maybe you are hearing it for the first time, and I think it's important. And try to share it with people who understand. Canada used to be like, at least in my personal view, like the Switzerland of North America. Like, some crap and riots are going down in the States. Who cares? We're in Canada.
Yeah.
Drug cartels in Mexico. Who cares? We're in Canada. Some crap
Yeah.
is happening anywhere on earth. Who cares? We're in Canada. Nobody bothers us.
Yeah.
Not anymore.
How so?
Well, I mean, if lockdowns and all that, and when I say that, I mean an over encompassing, that's one word trying to describe all the crap we've been through politically and with all that lockdown stuff, has taught me anything, is that we're not immune to the bad things and negative things that are going on in the world. I want to live in a free country. I don't want to live in a socialist country with a dictatorship and under authoritarian rule. I don't think anybody does. And
Mm-hmm.
unfortunately, we're veering that way. We took a hard right in Canada, so we're not
Mm-hmm.
immune to it. But I don't think the solution is, yeah, move to Florida. It's problem solved.
Yeah.
I think your location is either a liability or an asset. You used to be able to. I think you could play neutral like Switzerland in Canada before, but not anymore. And if you're stuck in one location, it's not good, because, and I hope it never happens, Florida could turn immediately,
Mm-hmm.
right? It
Mm-hmm.
could. So having a PR, permanent residence, or a passport in other countries, and having options, I think is the best security blanket you can have, right?
Yes, I
Not
love it.
just
Let's
Florida, but Toronto, Florida, Caribbean, Europe. Okay, one shuts down, forget it. Next, next, next.
right.
I can keep flowing, right? You understand what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, you're like a global citizen. So you have yeah, but anyways, it's not about me, but I'm really curious for you to continue to expand on that philosophy. I think you probably do have a philosophy about how you've strategically making your moves and having your interests in different countries. So I love it. Yeah. What's your approach before we jump into some of the details of some of the cool stuff that you're doing, where you're
Yeah, yeah.
investing, and what's first the philosophy, the approach that you and your wife are taking with your family?
Well, I mean, I like any other parent, I assume, you want to give your kids the most options, and
Yeah.
being locked, or being committing only to one country very much limits your options.
Hmm.
For example, I'm only using what I know because I can't speak to all countries, but in Italy, you know, education is very cheap.
Yeah.
Post-secondary education, I mean, very cheap in comparison. You know, the lawyer I used, I won't mention names, but the lawyer I used to handle the citizenship, it cost him 3,000 euros per year, about approximately, to do his law degree in Italy. 5 years to get the law degree he did. So
Oh, for his
somewhere,
law degree.
yeah, in Italy. So
Wow.
3,000-ish euros per year. And then he came to Canada and did an equivalency test to be licensed in Canada also. And it cost him $52,000 for just 1 year.
Holy smokes.
So that's just I'm just talking a very small benefit, but there are other things, right? Like with citizenship in Italy, I have access to, hey, much cheaper education, a different place for, my kids to grow up, experience, and work, right? A different language, a different culture, different food. Like you have to be, I think, if you want to give your kids the best, you have to expose them to different parts of the world and be able to access the benefits of each without locking yourself in. So I don't have to, take all the not so good things about Italy, the corruption and all the other crap, right? I can use the
Hmm.
education and go back to Florida or go back to Toronto or go back to the Caribbean or wherever I am. You understand what I'm saying?
Right. Yeah.
So I think that's really important. Super,
So
super
you've given
important.
yourself and your kids options.
Yes. Yeah. I think you have to. I think your location, like I said, is either an asset or a liability. And the more you have access to, the more assets you have in terms of lifestyle and options and investments and everything.
Hmm. So is your strategy, I'm going to infer a little bit, totally correct me if I'm wrong, but is your strategy to have these options like Italy, Caribbean, Florida, Toronto, Canada, to first have a property or a business there, or do you just go there and then get the citizenship and then the investments come afterwards? Like, what is it, chicken or egg?
Well, yeah, I mean that's a tough question. I mean for Italy, it was citizenship first because, by blood I could get it, right? I can't just get a citizenship in the Philippines, you know what I mean?
Right.
So that, yes, was citizenship first. Uh, Florida probably would be investment first,
Hmm.
right? Because I mean, if I find a happy spot where I know we can spend time and we're not giving up the things that we're used to in terms of education or lifestyle, and I can make some investments and make money, that just allows me to spend more time there,
Hmm. Hmm. And
right?
you don't need citizenship to be able to start investing in Florida.
No, and no, you don't. You don't have to. You don't need a PR. You don't need a citizenship. As a Canadian, yes, you can buy there, and they're not going to bother you, right?
Right. And then Caribbean, what areas of the Caribbean do you have interest?
Yeah. So we're in Bahamas and Turks and Caicos, and they're not cheap. Um, well, if you're comparing them to Toronto dollars, it might look cheap, but in the grand scheme of
Yeah.
things, it's not cheap. But it does provide other options, other benefits that it's not just about cash flow or investment. Like you can have a bank account in another country that's
Hmm.
much safer than yours or
Hmm.
American or Canadian, right?
Hmm.
Eventually you can work toward a PR, a permanent resident. You're enjoying a lifestyle that I think is desirable and desirable for a lot of people, right? You got sun all the time. It's a happy place. It's not overcrowded at all. People are happy. People want to have fun here, and but they work when they need to.
Hmm.
Um, and there when you think offshore, that those are the kind of the places you think of, right? And
Hmm.
there's benefits to those if you want to seek them. Does that make sense?
Hmm. Hmm. I want to ask you a question that probably anyone listening or watching this would also be asking. Uh, how do you make it make financial sense? Like, are these
Hmm.
long-term rentals? You mentioned before when we were leading up to this, you have some development. So you've got your hands in a lot of different things, which is really cool. Whatever you can share, how would you summarize making all these different locations make financial sense for you?
Yeah, like so my personal formula, like if I'm going to go to Florida, I'm going to want to buy a property and I'm going to want to uh, have it operate as a short-term rental, right? Because then I can come and use the property as I see fit also, you know. But
Yes.
as a formula, and you might have a different one you use with your clients, like I want to get as close to a 10% return as possible, or better, of course, while still being able to use the property.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, Florida has the same seasons as basically the Caribbean. You got your high, low, kind of the crappy hurricane season, if you want to call it that. If I take 6 weeks out, let's say 2 weeks in high season, and then another 2 weeks each in each shoulder season for myself. And, being conservative, if I get, 60, 65, 70% occupancy and I finance it at what, 25, 30% down for a Canadian, and I'm able
Mm-hmm.
to achieve a 10% return at the end of the year, net,
Yeah.
while still using it, to me, it's a home run
Yeah.
because
You're laughing.
there's a pathway to recover your capital that you used to invest in the property. Never mind refinancing. I'm saying even if you never refinance, eventually the income you earn is going to recover your capital because I need that money back eventually, right?
Yeah.
And you get to use it and you get to enjoy the benefits of the location for you, your family. That's a no-brainer. Like it's absolute no-brainer. Now that's not easy to do. I mean, it takes a bit of skill and sophistication. I'm sure you help your clients do that. But for me, that's a solid formula. If you can do that over and over again, like you're going to make money and enjoy the location as much as possible.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. What kind of advice would you give to someone if you can remember how far back before you had, I don't know, before you had your first international property acquisition, before maybe even before you had your first real estate investment? We tend to forget that, once you've overcome some pretty crazy challenges and you've been there, done that, you tend to forget how difficult it was just to get started.
Mm.
So what would be a piece of advice you can give someone who's thinking, oh my gosh, I can't even imagine. I'm sitting here in Toronto, somewhere in the GTA, and it's cold. And look at these two dudes. One's in Orlando, Florida. The other one's somewhere in the Caribbean. I think you're in Turks and Caicos right
Mm.
now, right?
Yeah.
And that just seems so distant to the majority of Canadians. So what would you give as a bit of advice to be able to get over that hump?
I mean, it was for us too. At one time, like every master was once a disaster. Like I'm not that smart. I just set a goal and I just didn't stop until I got it. Right? I'm like, I just worked backwards. Like, what do I have to do to get a property in the Caribbean? Well, financing is very difficult. So very likely I have to pay cash. Well, where am I going to get all this cash from? Well, I better be good at investing in real estate back home. So I got really good at that. It took, I don't know, 6, 7 years of investing before I had enough, equity. Then we did some refinances, took the cash, and bought the property. Right? I'm
Mm,
I'm, I'm simplifying it completely, but
yeah.
that's what it was. So I just never lost sight of it. And there's what's that saying? You wake up in the morning and you say to yourself, this is either day one or one day. One day I'll do that thing, or it's day one today. So, or you're sitting there with a triple hamburger like this. How do you eat it? One bite at a time, right? Like there's no other way.
Right. And with so that's how you would get started if you had to do it kind of like all over again. What
One more thing.
Yes.
To fast track my personal results, I always had a coach or a mentor I was working with.
Mm-hmm.
And most times I'm paying people for this. right? Sometimes there's always people who help you, without money or help each other kind of thing. But I almost always had a coach or mentor that was helping me along the way. And it was an investment in myself. And what it did is just crunch time. So what I could do in 10 years, I got done in 5.
Mm-hmm.
And do I want my 5 years back or do I want X dollars? Most of the time you're going to take the time back every time, right? For sure.
I like the time frames that you're using, because you also mentioned there that you were investing, you kind of cut your teeth in Canadian real estate for 6 years, I think you'd mentioned. And then you just mentioned as an example, cutting down from 10 to 5. Very realistic time frame. But what was interesting is, did you have the goal of investing in the Caribbean even before you started Canadian real estate?
Yeah. I always, like, I mean, cold weather's not in my DNA. Let's put it that way. So I always kind of, sit there and daydream like, oh man, how do I get out of here? Or what do I do? And I started going on vacations every winter, and kind of fell in love with Mexico. And I'm like, I'm going to buy in Mexico. That was my thing when I was in my young 20s. And, one thing led to another. I actually started to invest in real estate at home, and then actually started to do research on Mexico, on Costa Rica, on Belize, other Caribbean places. And, we sort of narrowed it down, visited a few spots, and then found the right opportunity and pulled the trigger. So it didn't start that I wanted to be here. It sort of ended up here after, a lot of trial and error.
Mm-hmm. That's really important to point out, that in this day and age of the TikTok culture, everything is like 30 seconds, you're an expert and you get all that information. But in reality, that doesn't really help people implement. But I like the fact that you had mentioned very realistic time frames. So given that, you do help other investors. So what's like the 60-second pitch of how you're able to do that for other people?
Yeah, I mean, we're realtors at home, and
Which city?
and
Oakville?
our office is in Oakville, but we operate in Barrie, Peterborough, Hamilton, Kitchener, Waterloo, Niagara region. We're chasing properties and opportunities everywhere, because I think everyone has similar goals. Everybody wants to have options in their lifestyle. Maybe they don't want to buy a property in the Caribbean, and that's fine, but maybe they want to buy a property in Brazil, I don't know, or whatever, or Philippines. It doesn't
Mm.
matter. You want to have options in your lifestyle, and real estate is still one of the best investments. I know I'm biased, but still one of the best investments in Canada for you to open up those options. Some people just love Canada. They ski, they snowboard, they love winter. All the power to you. Honest to God. But
Hmm.
you can't be skiing and snowboarding all day. First of all, it's expensive as hell in Blue
Hmm.
Mountain, right? But you got to work. So people want to work less so they can enjoy life more. And real estate's the best way to open up those options. The cash flow, the equity, uh, and the methods to develop those into investments that uh, provide that lifestyle is what we do. And we have a bit of coaching and mentorship programs around that, so we can not only help you get a property, but we have your back along the way. It's the work before and the work after the property is sometimes the hardest stuff. So that's
Hmm.
kind of what we do. We want to help people enjoy the same results that we do.
Awesome. And how do people get in touch with you?
You can hit my website, expertinvestoracademy.com. You can get me on social media, Paul Expert Investor Academy. Uh, you can email me, Paul at expertinvestoracademy.com. And, usually a one-on-one consultation is where we start. And, we'll see if we can help you.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, thank you very much from the Turks and Caicos, Paul DeBruzio, for sharing your insights. And please make sure that you do reach out to him, especially if any part of Paul's story has resonated with you. So until next time, my friend.
Yeah. Take care, man. Talk soon, man. Maybe
You
I'll come
too.
see you in Orlando.
You must.